So in this video we are going to have a look at Hitman 3 lighting, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to run through the level that I've chosen for now, and I'm going to show you how the lighting is without the lights. Then I'm gonna show you running through it as I shoot the light, and we're gonna explore and kind of investigate the lighting and figure out how it works. So here in this area, you can see that I've run around and everything is shot, and I do apologize for the massacre I have done just to prepare for this part of the video to make it quick and easy. So if you have a look, you can see it's pretty bright. Everything is bright despite being further into the room or away from the window. But look at the reflection here in the mirror. You can see there's a reflection coming, and I'm not entirely sure what it is or where it's coming from, but it is suggesting there is or used to be a light source that's reflecting from the ground, right? And if you run in here, you can see that there's a baked lighting that I can't shoot away whatever I'm doing. So that again suggests that there is some contrast between predefined lighting and then there's probably some real-time lighting meant to be shot. Look at the reflection here coming out from outside. It's kind of brightening up everything as well, and that's kind of interesting to see as well. So you can see there's not a lot of lights except from the windows, but still it's pretty bright and reflective environment. If I go around here, you can still see that the tables, the doors, everything is well lit despite everything. So if we go into the kitchen, did you notice that the color is different? The exposure level goes up, which is a different topic altogether. It's interesting to see that they have that inside these two environment, but that shouldn't necessarily happen, because as you see, there's an orange color suggesting there was orange lights here, but there's white light coming from the windows. So that's a kind of interesting issue here. Another thing you can notice in this particular environment is the gradient on the wall. So you see that it's dark and then it goes to the bright one. Either it's like insane amount of ambient occlusion baked in, or it is in fact a well-placed light that's been baked to kind of make sure that everything is grounded. You can kind of tell that as well if you look around for the shadows here and there. And this is also the case here. Let's just have a look here from the window. You can see on the floor. Let's see if it's real-time light at all. I don't see any shadow from this particular light source. So that can either mean that the real-time light is not casting, or there is a emissive light, perhaps, or something that's casting light, but not actually this necessarily shadow. Sometimes I look into the mirror, you can see there's a light reflection there, suggesting there used to be a light or a fake light that's been baked. So these are some of the things I pay attention to, even when I do my lighting for the games. I look at the reflection, the table, the ground, and I look for a reflection that might have not been turned off or is not intended to be shown if a player walks around and shoots everything. Again, here you can see there's a light source inside the reflection of the glass, which was arguably, maybe it was from the light source that used to be there, but still it's a nice observation. It's a nice thing to keep in track. And this area is pretty dark as well, but it's still well lit, but you can see the reflection on the floor stairs as well. That's kind of showing up. You can see that it's pretty bright. You can see the reflection here as well. It suggests some warm light going on. Here you can see there's a bright light lighting up most of the environment. You can see there are in fact shadows here and there, despite that the lights are off, suggesting that is either very strong ambient baked lighting or something of that equivalent. And here you can see there's a weird lighting source going on here, despite there shouldn't be any lights left. There's no reason the bounce light would be strong here. So you can see this one is actually casting shadow, while the other one did not cast a shadow. Oh, there's some leftover light. You can see there's two light sources here on those type of lights. Let's shoot it, and you can see the range isn't that huge. So for the amount of lights coming in and the brightness of the room, it's interesting to see that the light is still bright. Would I consider this realistic lighting? I don't think I would necessarily consider this realistic lighting per se, but it's definitely interesting for us to analyze this type of lighting and kind of replicate it on our own later. So there's some leftover lights here as well. You can see that it has a nice range and warm light. It's casting two shadows, one that's brighter. So if I get rid of that, you can see it now is the white light dominating, and if I shoot this one, you can now see that's coming from the exterior lighting, and I have a shadow on me now. It's a very crisp, simple shadow as well if you pay attention to it. Again, you can see it's getting pretty dark without the lights, but it's not dark, right? So when you get critiques or feedback or you're doing your lighting, often you'll hear feedback about it's too dark, it's too bright. But if you look at game lighting, this is kind of what we're investigating here, is the fact that it's not that realistic. You wouldn't have this much light on this particular spot right here, for example. That's pretty bright considering there's no window nearby, and I don't necessarily recall seeing this much bounce light from this kind of windows, because I've lived in places like this, so I kind of know how the bounce light works when it comes to big windows like this, which is very common in France. So you can see there's a lot of refraction that's doing the work here. You can also see there is shadows around the area, so you can see there's brightness coming around on the curtains as well, suggesting either emissive or decals or something. I tend to use a lot of decals at work, so that can actually be the case here as well. Now here you can see there's warm light going on in here, and it's kind of interesting to see the hot spots of the warm light, suggesting there used to be some kind of light source here. You can spot that in the reflection here now, that there's some kind of light source reflecting back and forth from the two mirrors, I'm gonna guess. It's not this mirror, it's the other mirror. Let's just double check. You can see you see that hot spot, that reflection. Yeah, you can see that this is the mirror. So if I go back and double check, you can see it's broken there as well, and it kind of destroys that hotspot a little bit, which is kind of cool though. You can also look at the vase here, it has this warm hotspot while the others did not, suggesting again the same principles. Here is pretty a lot of windows, there's volumetric lights and still some painting lights on. Here's this one, it's in the dark yet it's bright, it has an interesting contrast. It's kind of what I'm trying to show you guys, is it is possible to have contrast and mood while you still have well lit areas. It's often a critique I give people that goes super dark in the shadows, and I'm trying to explain to them that it is actually very possible to have very visible, strong lighting when you do these things. So now I'm gonna go back to the main mission basically, and I'm gonna go show you as I run around, and I'm gonna show you what happens, and I'm gonna skip through this one so you don't have to see the beginning necessarily. So 2 seconds. Are having you can see here there's an exterior light which is still very visible considering the weather, which is fine. But let's go in and see where it used to be dark. Look at this, it's well lit. I would say there's an obvious contrast in the dark space and the light space, but remember this area is already well lit. So how are they doing this? Well, it's about the value of the light sources. They don't have like a huge range, they're well placed in terms of where they're being lit, and because it's already pretty bright, you can see the bloom effect or the emissive is pretty bright, some of them compared to the others. So you can see they have a certain range. There is warm light, and if I start figuring out where I want to shoot, you'll see the same principle in the beginning of the video, but you'll see it with your own eyes as you see these are disappearing, and you get to see the range of everything and how it actually works. So if you look at let me just talk to her very quickly, and I'll speed up the process so I can actually do the stuff. So I'll stop here again and kind of jump over this as well. So here we are, and you see that light over there. We're gonna see if that casts shadow first, because there's a lot of discussion about shadow and that you need shadow for everything. And as far as I can tell, this specific light does not actually cast any shadow. You can see that there is no shadow going on. Let's shoot it in a minute. As you can see, there's no shadow. So I'm going to shoot it, and then I'm going to show you that you can do good lighting, decent lighting, playable lighting, game lighting without the shadows. So off, you see how it looks like without that real-time light. Let's shoot this one and see if it does anything. You can see the vase has the reflection of that previous light source though. And you can see that by the other vases as well. They don't have that kind of reflection on them. So yeah, that light did not have shadow casting. It has a huge impact though, but it didn't have shadow, and it's possible to do that. And again, you can see this is an area with no other lights, so it's except exterior lighting. But I do believe it would be nice to talk to lighting artists that did this actually, but I do suspect there are some fake lighting to fill in the areas, or they have something that calculates the exterior lightings a lot. So you can see there's two shadows. There's a subtle one from that bulb, and then there's the main light from the exterior. That's just contrast lighting. All right, so that means the exterior lighting is actually brighter than the interior lighting. See that? So you can see how sharp the shadow is and how dark everything becomes. This shows that when the lights were shot, it was already planned ahead of time that this exterior lighting was going to be brighter, which is often the case anyway. And then you have the sharper shadow, while you saw that the light itself had a very weak shadow. So that's again values in contrast, which they're doing pretty well to keep everything well lit, but contrast. Here you see again, it's all very warm and cozy. You know, it looks like it's well lit. There's a gradient in the lighting basically. But as I try and shoot all the different lighting, you can see it all disappears very quickly. It's arguably flat. You know, it's a lot of reflection is doing a lot of the work here. So here you can see there's a straight spotlight with a certain range to it. Can be an area light too, but I think it's a spotlight. And you can see it's quickly becoming quite dark. But again, remember, look at it. It is still well lit because of the outside source is giving us the illusion that that's the light source. But again, I am pretty sure there's something else going on here as well. You can see the exposure obviously does the work as well. And you can see that the sources are well lit in the other corridor, and of course the sources have a certain emissiveness and glow to them, which makes them even look more brighter. Look down on the corner as well. It's pretty warm there as well. You saw when it fell very close how bright that was. That reveals a lot when it's falling down, and that light is brightening a lot for a corner, and it's supposed to be a lot of lights, so that makes sense as well. But that's very interesting to see the difference between contrast. I don't see a lot here, so I don't think this one will have any visible impact, which is correct, especially in terms of PBR, because it's right next to the daylight. Here you can see again the light on the floor, suggesting a shadow on the character. And if I shoot it, you can also see there's two light sources there. There's two spotlights. There's one at the bottom and there's one on top. I shoot it, you can still see some kind of odd reflection from the sources there. If you try the other one as well, you can see the range. It's meant to highlight the objects just subtly. It's not spreading too much outside, because they don't need that, and that's the smart choice they're doing here. So you can see again, you can see the two spotlights even more visible. There's one coming up and then there's one coming down. You see how dark it became in that corner, but it's still visible. And that's kind of what I'm arguing a lot with people, is you don't need to go like moody, dark, complete dark lighting. This is fairly dark, and that comes from the values they pick for the real-time light. That is also have strong emissive lighting, and is therefore for the range and the mood. You see the difference from one side to the other? There's a huge difference, and there's only a couple of lights that does that. I'm gonna save in case I screw up, because I know I screw up here. Actually, I'm gonna speed up here, because I know I'm gonna die. Alright, so I already died once, as you see. So yeah, so let me just run back and try and replicate what I was doing before I died. Look at that bright spot. That's a very interesting detail. So let me just try and shoot it and not die in the process. Look how dark it became, but please notice that there's still brightness there from that light source. You can look at the walls, you can look at the gradient that happens on the wall there. It suggests there's some kind of bait light to kind of I don't know honestly what's going on, but there's for me there's something obvious tricks going on to kind of make it playable and visible because of the real-time lights, because you can see the sheer intensity of these lights. And look at that changed the whole mood and the lighting down there. And it's the same here as well. If I start shooting these, this is a flare effect on it, you can see the range of it. You know, it's all gone now. That level of brightness wouldn't exist like in the corner there. If I shoot that, I mean, you can still see everything. So there seems to be a base lighting or GI or something that's going on that's like considered as base level, and then you have this actual real-time lights that's coming. Let me just make sure I'm saved. So I think that's really important to understand that. And even here you can see there's such a contrast going on here as well, from this dark area you can see here to this bright area there. But the minute you shoot them away, you get this base level lighting, and you get some warm light from the other rooms as well. A lot of this is obviously yeah, don't worry, I just need to get rid of them so I don't get killed too soon again. Here again you see a warm light coming from this side of the room. Just look at the difference. Now there's 4 light sources here, and they obviously have a huge range to them. You can see they are casting shadow as well. Let me just see if I can get rid of the people. Normally I would edit this part out, but I thought I'd let you guys see some of the action. There's also an exposure going on, obviously, from when I go in and out. So this obviously gives us some information about the exposure level they're using as well. So you can see how warm it is from that room to this room, right? Let me just see if I can get rid of more of them. See how dark it becomes, but see how visible it is. See how dark but visible it is. So this is kind of what I'm trying to teach here in this video. Is Hitman 3 is really a good game to test out the lighting and kind of replicate it later to get an idea of contrast and values. I keep repeating it because it's so important, and this game does such a good job in showing this. And another thing this game does very well on is leading the player with good level design, but also ensuring that the lighting is somewhat usable and practical to lead you to pick up the things you need on the table or near a wall or something like that, right? So that's definitely very useful in this particular game as well. You can see that this exposure is making me blind, but that's also because I've been shot a few times, so it changes the lighting. So let's just wait for it to cool down a bit. And you can see the difference already when I come from one area to another. Look at the gradients of the warm color, and that's the key here. It's a warm color. Once we shoot the lights, you'll notice that it's more of a cold base color, right? And then that's the color theory as well. So you can see there it's pretty well lit corner, and if I shoot it, it's you know, it gets basic again. Same over here. If I shoot that as well, you'll notice the same as well. And you can see the walls, the pictures, I mean, they also help with creating the contrast. But for some reason, a lot of people, they have like a lot of pitch black, and they're very afraid of learning how to make contrast lighting using brighter base lighting. which Hitman does a good job in. And I'm hoping that this video will persuade people to kind of experiment more with this kind of value-based lighting, where you do have the gradient, but you have a base lighting that does most of the work for playability, for game lighting at least. And then you have like this higher value, shorter range, well-placed lights around to kind of make it better. So hopefully that's useful. Let's just see if there's some more spots. This is a good spot as well that we came in the beginning. Look at the warm light, look at the reflections on the floor. You know, it's well lit, looks warm and cozy, I suppose. So let's just kill this person first. Cool. Now look, there's still some warm light around. There's still a lot of guards around. I think I'm gonna die looking at the people that's coming my way. So let me just quickly get these lights. See how that contrast between the hotspots, that's pool lighting. You know, I talk about it in my mentorship a lot. It's bright, dark, bright, dark. It's very basic stuff, but it does a great job. I knew I was gonna die. Let me just quickly reload, and I'll see if we can speed up the process a little bit here, and see if we can reiterate some of the key observations here. So let's just get rid of him again, and let's just go back where we were. Let me push him over. Never push anyone. Let's just shoot this one away. Look at that. Now I want you to look at the amount of orange that's still left when I shoot away the lights here. The reflections is there. Look at the contrast. Again, it's really important. I mean, I really do enjoy Hitman's lighting, because it's one of the better examples. What's going on here? It's one of the better examples of creating mood with one color. So it's only the warm color everywhere. It's more or less the same. This one is more yellowish color to it though. But look at how bright it is. And how dark it quickly gets, and they don't have a huge spread. They have a very small radius, but they do the job, and then suddenly the exposure hits in, and it's suddenly super dark. I might ask someone from Hitman to maybe join Lighting Bot interview and kind of talk a bit more about it, because I would love to have a breakdown. Because I don't know for a fact if there is fake baked lighting on top of everything, if there's a GI calculation of what the math is behind this. Maybe I should just ignore him. Just look at the reflection, look at the warm light, look at the ground. There's a certain beauty to it, that they're able to have a well lit level for you to sneak around, but still use this kind of contrast, which is not easy to do, I might add. But you can see that I don't see a lot of like bounce light per se. It seems to be a very selective placement of the lights, and as you shoot them it just gets darker and darker, and it takes away the mood, obviously. Look at that, that's a very dark corner, but if you get close you can see everything. It's not, you know, it's not dark, it's not pitch black. And I try and do that a lot on Lighting Bot Discord or lightingbot.com. I try and critique this a lot. It's okay in cinematic lighting and for certain reasons, and we'll see this here actually. If you remember, this was the darkest place in the game, arguably, because there's no window nearby to insinuate or argue the amount of light that comes here. So this one goes just up for the interesting shadow and mood. And you can see, I can still see everything, you know, there's a base lighting going on. And let's just quickly shoot this, and you can see how darker it becomes from a distance. So it's overlapping light is obviously thing we have to keep in mind when you do game lighting. So sometimes it's better to have a few of them, lower radius. So here you can see it's a nice hallway going on here, and you can see the reflection. And if I shoot this one, just notice how dark it becomes on this part, but still bright. Again, I'm gonna keep arguing. Look at that. It looks like there's a fog or something in back as well, actually, but I can't be sure. But it looks like there's some kind of atmospheric effect as well. Look how dark it gets there. Look at that, and it's still pretty bright. I mean, for one window, far away. And if I had closed this door, you would have seen that as well. But it's pretty bright, even then. If I shoot this, you can see it has a very interesting effect, and it seems to be one spotlight. I would argue. I'm not sure though, because they don't the chandeliers are not casting any shadow. I don't know if you noticed that. It's pretty casting shadow on other stuff maybe, but not on the from the chandelier. Oh, look at that. I might actually have to finish this now. I think I'll just finish the mission now, because now that I got a new challenge done by mistake. Let me just figure out this. Let me just shoot this one first. Yeah, and there's a light over here, and I think there's two lights. There's a chandelier, I think, as well above me that we can take away. And just look how bright it still is. Look at the reflections again. It's very important to pay attention to these details. You really, if you haven't, you should purchase the game. You should have a look. You can see the reflection on the glass as well, kind of revealing things, or the edges of the walls or the doors. You can see that there's still revealing some light sources. And now, if you shoot this one, which is the main light, you can still see the same spot that used to have warm reflection still have some kind of light on it. Now, I don't know for sure, but I would, if I were to replicate this, I would probably try like the same spot, but like a white light dimmer, and then I would have the real-time light on top, which I've done in the past as well, for that matter. But you can see there is light source coming in. I'm not sure I can see any like major shadows per se, but you can see that there are in fact some shadows coming in some of the places here. But I think I'm gonna end here while I finish this. Hopefully this video is useful. If you like this video, please leave a comment and a like, and I will try and make another video where I am kind of replicating the basic principles inside Unreal Engine or Unity, depending on your preference, to kind of put this into a more practical sense if this wasn't clear enough. So this was 27 minutes of a good explanation and observation teaching, I guess, and how you can break down. I might make another episode of another level, like from the discotheque or the party scene or something. That would be interesting to have a go at as well. It just takes time because there's a lot of AIs, and you want to make sure you get rid of them first, then kind of play backward afterwards. So this is still an edited version I'm showing, because as I said, I cut through some of the stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, you can join the LightingBot community and LightingBot YouTube channel as well. Just look at the description at the bottom. Thanks.